Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. I'm disappointed that Yellowstone spin-offs are being made for every Dutton except the one who deserves it the most. With the flagship Yellowstone series finished, it doesn't come as much of a surprise that the Taylor Sheridan narrative is set to continue beyond the original 5 seasons. After all, the neo-Western series likely would have lasted another season or two had Kevin Costner not departed from the show ahead of Season 5 Part 2. Either way, as Case, Luke Grimes, and Beth Kelly Rayleigh continue their respective journeys in opposite directions, I'm convinced there's one Dutton who still deserves a spin-off of his own. No, it's not Jamie, Wes Bentley, nor is it their other fallen brother Lee, Dave Annable, but rather the younger version of their father, John Dutton, played to perfection by Josh Lucas. If there's one character apart from Case who deserves their own spin-off, it's undoubtedly Josh Lucas' John Dutton. While Costner played an aged John Dutton in the final years leading to his assassination, Lucas played the younger version, still raising his children to try and take over his growing cattle empire. Having appeared in merely 9 episodes of the entire 53-episode series, Lucas' interpretation was to Costner's what Robert De Niro's Vito Corleone was to Marlon Brando's in the Godfather trilogy. He is John Dutton in his absolute prime, and we see him at a time when there was still potential for his family, long before Beth and Jamie fell out, before Case wandered in his own direction, and before Lee was unceremoniously murdered. In fact, this John existed alongside his wife Evelyn, Gretchen Mole, before her own fateful end. To say that the adventures of a younger John Dutton have a wealth of untapped potential would probably be an understatement. There's a lot about John Dutton that we still don't know or fully understand, and a prequel series about his life, even if it were a miniseries event that took us through it in stages, would offer some additional insight into the man that Costner played in those final years. Why did John really take Jamie in as a child? Why was he so hard on Case in particular? How did he deal with the loss of his wife, and how did that change him long-term? We can try to answer all of these questions based on what we see in Yellowstone, but they may be better explored in a series that intends to lean a bit further into the ranching life of John in his younger days. Going into Season 5, we were promised that the young John Dutton flashbacks would be a major part of the final season, and indeed they were at first. Season 5 Part 1 featured Lucas in earnest, further developing and examining John Dutton in both the past and present. The problem was, when Costner exited the show, John Dutton did too, and that meant that Lucas' final flashback sequence didn't feel so, well, definite. For years, Lucas had rumored that Sheridan wanted to do entire flashback episodes, perhaps even a whole flashback season, but that never came to be. With Yellowstone finished in its current form, Sheridan missed an opportunity to further explore Lucas' younger John as the patriarch's children grieve him in the present. This would have allowed the character to still be present in the final few episodes, even as Costner's version is written out. I'm also disappointed that Season 5B only got 6 episodes compared to Season 5A's 8. An entire episode could have been devoted to rounding out the flashbacks first established in the first half of the season, and if executed correctly, it may have been the best way to send John Dutton off. Instead, we were left with the fallout. While it was good to see Case, Beth, and Rip Kohlhauser all explore their own methods of grief during this time, especially since John's departure allowed them to really carry the series, it still felt odd that the last few episodes didn't feature the Dutton patriarch in any capacity. This is where Lucas' younger version may have softened the blow. Of course, there is still a possibility that Lucas could continue in the Yellowstone universe. In the same vein as 1883, it's always possible that Sheridan could develop a limited series that centers on John as he struggles with the loss of his wife, the branding of the ranch, and raising his children to take over in the years leading up to the flagship series. This would be the perfect opportunity for us to flesh out John Dutton in his entirety, apart from Costner's iteration, and maybe even further connect this version of the character to his ancestors as seen in 1923. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm tired of the Duttons. Not tired of the drama, the sweeping Montana landscapes, or the dark poeticism of Taylor Sheridan's world. I'm tired of seeing everyone in the Dutton lineage get their own gilded spotlight, except the one who, in my opinion, truly deserves it. Let's rewind. Yellowstone exploded onto our screens like a modern Western fever dream. It had cowboys, chaos, corruption, and family betrayal, all seasoned with just enough grit to make your teeth ache. Then came the spin-offs. First, 1883, a raw, heartbreaking origin story featuring James and Margaret Dutton, played by country royalty Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, a wagon train, and a whole lot of frontier despair. Then 1923, starring Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. No complaints there, but still focused on yet another branch of the Dutton tree. And now, as whispers grow louder about 1944, 66, and a Matthew McConaughey-led Yellowstone continuation, I can't help but feel a familiar pang of disappointment. Because somehow, amid all these epic sagas about Dutton's past and present, one key character remains woefully sidelined. Where, I ask, is the spin-off about Lee Dutton? Yes, Lee, the eldest son, the good soldier, the quiet protector, the one who didn't make it past episode 1 of season 1. Lee Dutton was the moral compass of the family, before Yellowstone had a chance to lose its bearings. He was the heir apparent, the dutiful son who didn't need the drama, who didn't hunger for power, and who didn't resort to manipulation, violence, or whiskey-soaked philosophy to prove his worth. He loved the land. He respected his father. He treated people with a decency that felt tragically out of place in that blood-soaked world. And what did he get for his loyalty? A bullet. Lee was the sacrificial lamb to kick-start the Yellowstone engine, but that doesn't mean he should be forgotten. In fact, it makes his story all the more deserving of expansion. Imagine it. Lee, a prequel spin-off set in the years leading up to the original series. While John is busy navigating political minefields and trying to keep the ranch afloat, Lee is out there doing the actual work. Riding fence lines, breaking horses, mentoring young wranglers, maybe even falling in love. Give us the quiet triumphs and silent sacrifices of a man who chose responsibility over rebellion. While his siblings, Case, Beth, and Jamie, spiraled into dysfunction, Lee stood steady. And that's what makes him so fascinating. In a family defined by trauma and intensity, Lee is the anomaly. What shaped that quiet strength? What were his internal struggles? Did he ever question the legacy he was bound to inherit? Did he wrestle with the morality of the Yellowstone way, or did he accept it without blinking? I want to know. There's narrative gold in Lee's untold story. We could finally explore a more grounded, introspective corner of the Yellowstone universe. A tale that's less about bloodshed and power plays, and more about the daily grind of ranch life, the burden of expectation, and the kind of heroism that doesn't come with fireworks. A story where drama simmers instead of explodes, where the stakes are emotional, not just political. Sheridan has proven he can write big. I want to see him write small again. And Lee's story is the perfect vessel for that return. Let's not forget that Dave Annable, the actor who played Lee, brought a rare kind of warmth to the role. One that stuck with fans even after just a single episode. People still talk about him, still wish he'd lived. That's no accident. That's storytelling potential waiting to be unearthed. Instead, what are we getting? A deep dive into the 4-6's ranch in Texas. Interesting, sure, but it feels like a lateral move. Another prequel set during World War II. More tales of Duttons making impossible decisions in impossible times. That's all well and good, but when do we get the story of the Dutton who didn't choose violence first? The Dutton who, had he lived, might have broken the toxic cycle. There's a deeper message here, too. In the world of Yellowstone, being level-headed and loyal seems to get you killed, or worse, forgotten. The loudest, most reckless characters get the most screen time. But in reality, it's people like Lee who keep families and legacies intact. Maybe that's why his absence stings. Not just because he died too soon, but because the story moved on without him, as if goodness was too dull to merit its own saga.